On Read All About It. I'm your host, Stefani Milan, and today we're here with the talented fantasy encouraged from a young age, and how that's not necessarily happening in schools today. You know, they're cutting programs like drama programs and art programs and music programs, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but and how that's affecting children because, you know, to me, creativity is a solution, not a problem. So that's so important to be, and I also was creatively encouraged.
Yeah, no, I agree completely.
College major, and then I transitioned into it.
All sorts of pop music, pop rock, pop folk, pop jazz. I've been branching into something new for me, which is coming from Europe, more electronic dance music.
Okay, yeah.
Which is kind of coming over here, but I've been asked to write lyrics and melody for tracks that track writers do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And where do you perform anywhere?
I don't know. I haven't performed and sung for a long time. My voice is kind of scratchy these days, so I like to hire singers to
That's
do demos
unique,
for
though.
me.
You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people there's all different types of voices. You could maybe, you know, transition into a different, you know, type of song with your voice. You know.
Yeah, I mean, my voice is a very particular sound, and so to put demos out in the world now that need to be more, in a way, a little bit more generic.
Mm-hmm.
But I love to hire other singers. So if anybody's a singer out there and would like to be hired, send me a demo or get in touch with me. I don't know, through the station or through my website at Kittus Music, Kittus Music. You can find out where to email me, and I'd be happy to listen.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. So let's get back to your author job. So let's talk about that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So because you do this part-time, do you write 5 days a week? Do you have a schedule that you write, or do you just let creativity call you and go with that?
Well, I think the danger, it's the same with songwriting, the danger with letting creativity call you is that you can get distracted by so many things. And if you've got a story brewing and you're a little bit nervous about are you going to be able to write it or not, it's so easy to avoid it. Mm-hmm. So I try to be regular. I can't say that I'm always successful. For me, what works best is if I can get up really early and do that kind of fiction writing first thing. I try to spend some time every day doing some kind of prose writing, whether it's in a journal or making notes or doing pre-writing for a project or actually working on a project. Mm-hmm. But like I say, I can't say I'm always successful in doing that. And then sometimes, my music career is like there are deadlines for songs, mm-hmm. and so I have to work all day, every day on something, and I can't do any other writing at that point. So.
Right. So that's interesting. And then how do you write your books? So you say you write a little bit of prose each day. Do you outline stuff?
I do, yeah. I mean, once I've got an idea for a book, I tend to sort of work around it to do some certain amount of pre-writing. I'll develop the characters a little bit, mm-hmm. and I'll start getting ideas for the plot and what's really... I like to know the main plot points, the beginning, where's it starting, and where's it ending, and then the middle, get an idea of what sorts of things are going to happen mm-hmm. in the middle. And then within that structure, I pretty much start by outlining the first chapter and writing that, and then getting to there and seeing where do I need to go next. But I've always got a destination,
okay,
mm-hmm. which is the end, and then there are certain points in the middle that I know need to happen. And
so can we talk a little bit about your workshops, because I think this mm-hmm. will segue nicely into what I want to talk about next. What types of workshops do you teach? And because you teach both adult and children. Yeah,
I do. Adult workshops are obviously going to be more sophisticated. They're on things like world building. World building in fantasy fiction is what I call it, but it can work for contemporary fiction, for really any kind of fiction as well. I do workshops on show don't tell, which can lean either way, for kids or for adults. Workshops on how to get published, which obviously is going to be more on for adults. Mm-hmm. And for kids, oh gosh, it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Before I get lost, if I think of it, I know there are others. I mean, like starting a story with a character. How mm-hmm. how do you start with a character, and how do you build from a character out? All sorts of things. Actually, the information, if anybody's interested, is if you go to my website at kitgrindstaff.com, there is a teachers page there where all my workshops are outlined, and you can actually download outlines of them and see if you're interested in having me come along to your school or library. I'd be happy to do that.
That's great. All right, well, we're going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about Kit's book, The Flame in the Mist, and a few other things. Thanks.
For independent living for seniors age 62 and over, People Inc. offers safe, maintenance-free apartments across Western New York. The affordable rent is income-based. For more information, call People Inc. Senior Living at 817-9090.
Looking for a cooking oil with a light flavor and reduced absorption so food preserves its natural flavor? One with a high smoke point for stir-frying, sautéing, grilling, and baking? Then choose all-natural Pompeian 100% grapeseed oil, imported from France. Grapes have been a key ingredient of the healthy Mediterranean diet for years. Pompeian 100% grapeseed oil is the chef's choice for high-heat cooking, grilling, stir-frying, sautéing, or even deep frying. And Pompeian 100% grapeseed oil is great for baking too, because its delicate taste does not overwhelm the flavor of cakes, cookies, and other favorite recipes. A key traditional ingredient of the Mediterranean, grapeseed oil is a rich source of vitamin E antioxidant and naturally gluten-free. Buy imported Pompeian 100% grapeseed oil today and find great recipes at Pompeian.com.
Wait, don't let this happen to you. At Jan Fence, we're family owned and operated for over 50 years, providing a wide choice of fencing. Why wait online at the big box store? Just call Jan Fence. Ask about our Easy Fence to Go products by Active Yards, the first truly do-it-yourself fence product.
At Jan Fence, we always do what we say. Come see us today.
Step into an extraordinary world that will excite your senses. Experience our delectable Mughlai cuisine and the magic of tandoori savoir-faire. Let our international award-winning team delight you with a taste of heaven. Enjoy our mouth-watering flavors and our unique flair for excellence. Savor the elegance of fine dining and catering. Shazam Restaurant.
Welcome back to Read All About It. I'm your host, Stefani Milan, and we're here today with author Kit Grindstaff. And Kit, why don't we talk about your book, The Flame in the Mist? So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. It's a fantasy. It's a middle grade fantasy, which I like to say it's for middle grade readers aged 9 to 90. Because plenty of adults like it too.
Oh, that's great.
You know, like who doesn't love Harry Potter? Well,
Exactly.
I'm sure there's plenty of people who don't like
Harry
Harry Potter. But, so it's a fantasy. It's set in a version of England, which is obviously where I'm from. And it's about a girl called Gemma. I don't know if you can see the cover from there. But she is this girl who lives in a castle on top of the hill. And the land is covered in mist, and all she can see from her castle window is mist. And the mist is created by these evil rulers called the Agramons, who, at the beginning of the book, Gemma thinks she's one of them, but she's not who she thinks she is. Dan, 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 dan. So she has these two friends who are rats, magical telepathic rats called Noodle and Pie. And it comes a point in the book where she has to escape from the evil people. So I'm going to read a little bit of the book. And she is it's at night, and she's in the forest, in Agramon Forest. And I'm just going to read a short bit, and it'll just give you an idea of the flavor of the book. So there she is. She's got the rats hiding in her hood because she's got this cloak on. It's set in medieval times. And this furious storm, which is created by one of the evil rulers, is raining down on her. So, between the firs, through a curtain of rain, a shadow moved, and another, darting into view, then disappearing. Fear shot into Gemma's veins, and she took off again, stumbling over the uneven ground, yet managing somehow not to fall. Her clothes were heavy, soaked through, and still thunder roared and lightning speared down. In its brief flashes, she could see more shadows gathering. They looked like pale Maud sprites, small, bedraggled, skeletal. She lengthened her stride, but the ground was slick and she slipped, slamming face down in black mud. Hauling herself to her feet yet again, she came face to face with one of the shadows. It was not a Maud sprite at all, but the grey silhouette of a child, a sunken-cheeked, hollow-eyed boy of no more than 5, his ragged arms reaching out to her through the mist. Gemma stood petrified, her heart hammering as he swayed closer, oblivious to the chaos crashing down around him. Others closed in behind him, a straggling band of waifs, all moving in the same direction, toward her.
Very nice. Wow, that sounds very mysterious. That's exciting.
As you can tell, I like ghosts and paranormal
Yes,
things.
so do I. So we share that. We have that in
Yeah.
common. So tell me, how did this book come about?
Well, it came about because I started doing a course in writing for children, and for our homework, the first week we were sent home to write 3 synopses for a book. I had no idea at that time what I wanted to write. I did know I wanted to write fantasy because I'd taken some courses in children's literature to kind of figure out, well, what is it I want to write, and can I, do I really want to write for children? And I felt like, yes, I did, and I knew it was going to be fantasy. So I don't remember what the first 2 synopses were, but they were pretty pathetic, I think. And then suddenly, like, this idea plopped onto the page, and it was something like a girl held captive in a castle, miles from anywhere, the whole land surrounded by mist, and she's been abducted as a baby. And I was like, where did this come from? I don't know, but I'm sure
As those ideas so often,
Yeah.
we're like, where did this come from?
It just kind of grabbed me by the throat, and from that point I was like, then you start asking the questions. You get an idea like that, it's like, well, why is she there? Who took her?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it about her that made them want to do this? And so just from those few lines, because part of the instruction was just make it 3 or 4 sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think actually that's a really great way to start a book. It's just 3 or 4 sentences, and then by asking questions about what you've got on that page, if it grabs you like this grabbed me, the whole story just came from that.
That's very wonderful.
But of course it's influenced a lot by growing up in the country where there's spooky old castles, and then every village everywhere has a spooky old church.
That's a whole other interview.
Yeah,
I could talk about that for days,
I know.
But so then how long did it take you to finish the project?
Well, I wrote it over a number of years. I would say probably 8 years altogether. It was quite some time because it was my first book, and it was the first time I'd written anything of any length. I'd written short stories and songs, obviously, lots of songs, but writing a book is very different.
Yes.
To create an arc of a story that goes from beginning, middle, and end over several hundred pages is very, very different. So, when I started, I was still studying. I was getting lots of feedback from class, and then a lot of things were happening in my life. We were moving. I was traveling to Europe a lot on songwriting. So it wasn't 8 solid years. I think if I was to contract that together, it would probably be more like 3 or 4. And then because it was my first book, I got stuck a lot. I got to points in the book where the first time Gemma was out of the castle, like before I got to the storm and that bit that I just read, it's like, well, now what do I do? I'm so used to her being with these creepy characters who were enormous fun to write, but now what do I do with her? And it took several months, literally, of just starting but I loved the story idea so much, and I loved her so much, I couldn't let it go. So eventually it came, and
so how did you get through some of that writer's block? I know with me, I have like a very specific way that I write, and I write by listening to Pandora film score. I don't know why, it's like a thing. But if I get stuck, I sit there and I'll like listen to music, or I'll do something like that. What is it for you that gets you through that?
I don't know. Seeing that at that time, it was easy just to let it go for a week or two, a month or 2 at a time, because I was so busy doing other things. But I don't know that I have a specific technique. I think if I'm stuck, I feel now that it's sort of flowing, and there isn't that kind of long gap when I'm not going to be writing. But if I'm stuck on a particular piece, I usually do something else.
Okay.
Go for a walk. Particularly go for a walk or a bike ride, because I think with the rhythm of footsteps and the rhythm of cycling, sometimes things work in your mind, and sometimes I'll just start by putting a question in my mind before I do that, and sometimes just in the rhythmic of doing of something else, the idea just pops out into your head, and sometimes I meditate.
Nice.
And with the prologue of this book, I had written 2 prologues, and nobody had asked me to write another one, but I just didn't feel it was the right one. And so I tried writing 3 or 4, and I was giving them to my beta readers, and kids were saying, we don't understand this. Like, okay. So one day I just sort of sat down, and I was like, okay, show me the prologue. And literally, I got it in seconds. It's like, of course it has to start at the beginning, like something that happened a few hundred years before the main story begins in this, and it was just, I wrote it in half an hour. I mean, it was
That's
there.
amazing. Yeah, I definitely believe in clearing your mind. It comes so much quicker. And it's so funny that I read this book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joe Murphy, and it really talks about Robert Louis Stevenson and Mark Twain, and how they would go to bed at nighttime and they would ask for this guidance to come through them and give them a book. Like Robert Louis Stevenson, he would say, I need a full book. That's how he wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This book just came to him from him quieting his mind at nighttime, getting into that theta brain wave, and boom, it comes. So I definitely agree with that. That is probably one of the best ways to get through your writer's block, is to meditate on it, and it comes. And it'll come out of nowhere. You think you have something, and then something else will tug at you, and they'll be like, nope, this is it, So that's
There's a similar man called Robert Fritz, who does a certain amount of, sort of self-improvement techniques or something. But he actually said, like, if you're a violin player and you're stuck on something, and I think musicians will recognize this, if you're stuck on a particular passage that's very difficult to learn, and you're trying and you'll do it for a few hours, the best thing to do is put down your violin, put down what it is, and go and do something else. And then you'll come back the next day and your fingers just do it. The learning goes on, and I think the mind is such that if you ask a question, we're programmed to find the answer. because
Yes.
that's our survival.
Yes.
That's our survival, is finding the answer to things out in the world and things that are maybe a bit dangerous. Is it dangerous or not? And it's that answering of the question that we're uniquely programmed to do, and it can be incredibly helpful.
Very nice. All right, well, where can everyone get your book?
Oh, you can order it online
Mhm.
at barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com, any major online outlet.
Okay.
You can, if Barnes & Noble or a bookstore, some of them may still have them in stock, but you can order them at any bookstore as well. They'll have them.
Very
It's
nice.
published by Random House, so still readily available.
Very nice. And what is your website again, so that people can visit you and
Yeah.
your music as well?
Yes, the writing website is www.kit, and that's with one T, K-I-T, grindstaff.com. That's Grindstaff, or you'd say Grindstaff. That's my website. And then the music one is kittus, K-I-T-T-U-S, music.com.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kit.
Okay.
And thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for tuning in. We will see you next time on Read All About It.
Thank you.